Then what else?
How to create volumes and
I am good.
snapshots.
Yeah, that's what is missing. Snapshots. Creating snapshots is missing in between, and then one more thing is missing.
I am good.
Volumes.
Volumes is been listed. Volumes listed.
I am good.
IAM is not part of EC2, but since it is needed, we have created an IAM role.
AMI, Amazon Machine
Yes,
Image.
exactly. AMI. We have seen how to create an AMI and make it public or keeping it private for us only. That's checked by us. Then anything else? That's all right. So far we have seen only so many things. We have. Let me list. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So let me list out from my end once for all. First, we have seen how to configure an EC2 instance. EC2 instance is nothing but it is a server in the cloud, a virtual server in the cloud. And we've also seen not only configuring the instances, we have also seen the different type of instances based on pricing and revenue model or based on the configurational stuff. So different type of instances we have seen. After that, we have seen EBS volumes. EBS is nothing but elastic block storage. So EBS stands for that, and the volumes are block level storage capacity volumes. We have seen, and not only creating volumes, but we have also seen attaching that to a server and extending those volumes, extending in terms of the number, its capacity. After that, we've seen creating snapshots. Of course, expanding the volumes is possible by taking snapshots, and we have also discussed that snapshots are incremental. So remember, the snapshots are always incremental, which means we have discussed. I hope you remember, incremental is nothing but it always, a backup. First of all, snapshot is nothing but what? It's a backup of your entire volume. Okay, so when you take a snapshot of your volume, that's incremental. I said it's because it only back up the data from last successful backup, which means whenever, for example, today it's date 3rd July, so June. So for example, if there is a successful backup happen on 1st June, which is day before yesterday, and today we are trying to take a snapshot, then it will take this backup of only the files which are modified from the last backup, that is on 1st June to till date. So only those modified files will be backed up. That's what snapshot incremental means. So we have seen about creating snapshots, and the uses of snapshots. It's like, you can expand the volumes. You can also create your volumes in another region by copying the snapshots to some other region and creating a volume in that region, whichever the region you want it to have, to access your data from one region to another region. That's possible. So those are the uses of snapshots we have seen. After that, we have seen AMI. What's AMI? AMI is nothing but it's a pre-bundled configure software that is the combination of your OS operating system. Apart from that, all the supporting softwares, configured together is known as AMI, Amazon Machine Image. So we've also seen creating an Amazon Machine Image, making it public or keeping it private for ourselves, or keeping it in marketplace. Then what else? After that, we have seen we've gone to load balancer. So we have checked something about load balancer, how to create, what way it is used. Okay, all those things we have seen, and after that we have gone to CloudWatch monitoring stuff, in that creating alarms. Okay, not only that, creating instances with bash script, how bash script is used in auto scaling. That's because we have learned creating an instance with respect to creating with respect to the bash script. So that's what we have seen, and after that we've also seen accessing some services, AWS services from an EC2 instance by configuring our user access key and secret access key on an instance, or by attaching an IAM role to the instance. And remember, IAM role will be able to attach only while you create the instance, but not after it is created. Once the instance is created, you can neither attach an IAM role or detach. But what we can do is we can modify the permissions. That's by attaching or detaching the policies to the IAM role. So don't worry, not to worry about policies and all those things will be discussed in IAM topic very clearly. After that, what we have seen, so creating a load balance, auto scaling. That's what we have seen. And one more small thing I would like to discuss, that's elastic IP. I hope you remember that we can only have 5 elastic IPs per region per an account. So these elastic IPs are also known as static IPs. Why do we need to have these elastic IPs? When an instance is created, I'm going to quickly launch an instance. Only going to create, not going to launch. So when we create an instance and n number of times you stop it and start, every time you stop and start, that instance IP address, public IP address will be changed. And when you wanted, for example, that instance has a web server or something, some file server shape is created and provided to your employees, whatever it is. And if you have given that IP address to somebody, and when somebody is logging with respect to that IP address, every time your instance is stopped and started, its IP address changes, so that people will suffer logging into it using that IP address. And when you don't wanted that mess not to happen with, then we create an elastic IP, and that elastic IP is associated with your instance. Then any number of times you stop your instance and start it, it will have only one IP address permanently fixed to it, which is associated. That's nothing but an elastic IP. But do remember guys, once an elastic IP is generated and it is not associated to any instance, not being utilized by any instance, it is charged. So don't simply keep elastic IPs reserved for your environment without associating them to anything. And I would suggest you do not keep anything. End of the day, after once you are done with your lab and clear with all the topics, better you delete every single thing. And now you see here 52, 64, 145, 178. I'll just copy it somewhere. Okay, just to have an idea. So that's the IP address. Now what I'll do, I'll just stop this instance and start it again. Okay, I'm stopping it and let's check what happens. And there is something about, okay, till it gets stopped, we'll discuss something about placement groups. Here we have placement group. So we have seen about security groups. We are now trying to understand elastic IPs, how they work. We have also seen key pairs. Now let's try to understand things very simply about placement groups. Network interfaces, we don't deal with that. So let's try to understand what placement group just theoretically. You see, when an instance is stopped, it's all the IP addresses have vanished except for private. Okay, there is no public DNS, there is no elastic IP, and there is no public IP. You okay with that? Now let's start it again. When we start as I said, this instance will be, rebuilt again on a other hardware, available hardware. Since its hardware is changing, its public IP address changes every time. Now, meanwhile it's getting ready, we will see. A placement group. So understand, placement group is nothing but it is a logical grouping of instances with a single availability zone. Let me come again. Let me discuss this again. Since our instance is ready, we will see what we have to. Now you see 52, 62, 241, 130. What's our previous IP address? 52, 64, 145, 178. Are you clear with this now? So any n number of times you stop and start your instance, so those many number of times its public IP address changes. And when you wanted your instance public IP address to be constantly, assigned to that, you need to go create an elastic IP and associate that with, okay, first we do not have an elastic IP, so first you allocate a new address. Yes, it's quite simple. Then that is the elastic IP, view elastic IP, you can just check or close. So now this is the elastic IP created. Let's go associate this with the instance we currently have. Well, before that I wanted to make a note of this. Okay, so now let's go to IP addresses, elastic IPs, and now go to actions by selecting that elastic IP, associate. Here in this association, you are supposed to provide either your running instance name or network interface. So this network interface, since I said we are not going to deal with this, it's not so very important. We'll say we'll deal with instances. Now currently we have only one running instance, so I'm selecting that. Okay, so yes, associate. Now you see when an elastic IP is associated, its instance ID is provided. Now this elastic IP is associated with this instance. Let's go to instance and check its public IP address now. Now you see its public IP and private IP both have turned same. When we first created its elastic, its IP address was this. Okay, when we stopped and started, the IP address has changed to this, and now currently its IP address is both the public and elastic IP is same, that is the elastic IP address, which means the elastic IP address is, the public IP address is replaced by this elastic IP address. And let's just play the same game again, stop and start, and see whether the same IP address will be continued or not. Just remember 172.91, the last two blocks. When you stop and start, yeah, see it stopped, but still the public IP and elastic IP are remain same. When there is no elastic IP, it was, all these three blanks were nothing, were left blank without any IP addresses. Now you start it again, it will be the same, This is what the usage of elastic IPs. So elastic IPs are static and will have only the limit of 5 elastic IP addresses per region per an account. Okay, so that's all about elastic IP addresses. Are you clear with that? Anything anybody want me to repeat? Any statement? Fine, that's fantastic. I'm happy to see your responses, so please make me happy. Okay, now see the instances into running state and the IP addresses are same. Now what I'll do, I don't wanted this instance, so I'll go delete. Okay, let's first discuss about placement groups. So what I'm trying to tell you is placement groups are nothing but it's a logical grouping of multiple instances with a single availability zone within a single availability zone. The question is, why do we need to group multiple instances within a single availability zone? That is, okay, this option is for enabling application, okay, which needs to be participated or which needs to have a very low latency, a very less latency. Whenever you wanted a very low latency to be for your access for your website or for your server, then it's better we create some placement groups, okay, and group multiple instances in that, so those multiple instances share the load and makes you access the application or servers within no time with as much as less latency. But you can only group instances in a single availability zone. Okay, so that's what you have to plan. Which availability zone, which region, which availability zone you wanted to create this um, placement group. It's because all the way we are talking about latency. Latency will be reduced only when an entire environment is created in one particular environment or in one particular location. The first point, placement groups are created to have an environment with less latency. That is the first point. To achieve this less latency or low latency, we need to have multiple servers created. Okay, that multiple servers must be created in a single availability zone, not multiple. And these multiple instances which are created in a single availability zone are grouped by this placement group. With respect to that, considering all those multiple instances grouped into one, okay, your application or server's performance will increase maximum optimized and your environment will be very faster to access by people. And technically speaking, okay, if you create your environment in US region and make people from Asia Pacific, APAC region to access that, obviously comparatively there will be some sort of latency when compared with US people to APAC people. Since the environment is created in US location, people from US location will be able to access that with as less as low latency, and other parts of public, other regions of the public will have some sort of latency. Okay, so that is the reason why the placement groups are created in only one particular region or specifically in one particular availability zone. Hope that makes sense. So I'm just naming these as test PG placement group. So let me just click on here. Test PG. I'm creating it. And now once it's created, okay, the placement group is created, then you see group name is test PG cluster available, and here you can just go and attach multiple instances to this, but all the instances should be in a single availability zone. That is the first point. And second point is you cannot attach all the different type of instances you wanted to attach. Okay, you will have certain limitations, and you will be able to take or you will be able to allow only a particular, okay, only a particular type of EC2 instances. What are those particular type of EC2 instances? Which are nothing but compute optimized, GPU graphic optimized, memory optimized, and storage optimized. Only these four different type of EC2 instances are allowed to group into a placement group. Are you clear with that? And it is not suggested for normal T2, M, okay, M type, T type, or this kind of instances, because it is again for the faster access and low latency. Okay, and whenever you attach an instance, the multiple instance, the rest of the instances should also be of the same type of instance whichever you attach to that. So that is what the speciality of placement group. Okay, clear with that? That's all I wanted to discuss about a placement group. And now I would like to ask one question to you. Cluster is nothing but what? Anybody? Any idea about what's cluster?
Is a combination of servers.
Very good. That's all. Combination of servers are known as clusters, which means clustering is nothing but if you have multiple instances or multiple servers grouped together, if one server went down or goes down, still your application will be safe, working fine with respect to the other services or servers available in your environment. Usually clustering is done in this way, like two servers will be built with the same configuration, okay, and those two servers are named as node A, node B, or node 1, node 2. They are known as nodes of cluster, node, N-O-D-E. And they are configured in such a way, cluster configuration is little different, that you need to know, it's a separate course. But for now, you understand theoretically, while you configure cluster, the configuration will be set up in such a way that if node 1 is healthy, it should be accessed by people. In case if node 1 goes down, then automatically the traffic should be routed to node 2, just like load balancer. But it will be like only when node 1 is down, it will go to traffic will go to node 2. When node 2 goes down, then traffic will come back to node 1, sorry. If both are down, then obviously your system is down. Okay, so that's what the clusters, and here we are indirectly talking about clustering only, right? So that's what the point is. Then elastic IPs are seen, and this. Okay, now the question what I wanted to ask you is, okay, can one pen drive or one external hard disk be connected to multiple servers or multiple computers at a time? You want me to repeat my question again? My question is, okay, let's understand so simply. You have a pen drive of some capacity. Can you connect that pen drive to multiple computers at a time? Not one after the other. At a time it should be connected. It's not possible, right? Physically it's not possible. And technically also it's not possible even here in this volumes case. Okay. It's not possible because volume once created will be attached to only one particular server. We cannot have one volume attached to multiple servers at a time or instances at a time. But there is one, service Amazon has come up with. It's really fantastic idea that Amazon has come up with, that connecting, that's what, yes, connecting one, storage to multiple EBS storage, especially to multiple instances, is possible with that service. What is that service? Let's see here. It is by this elastic file system, fully managed file system for EC2. So here, once you create this elastic file system, which is nothing but this is also an EBS file system only, which is currently in preview state, so that it is accessed by only for these two regions. Okay, US East North Virginia and US West Oregon. Only for these two regions it is allowed, and it is still in preview state. And to access, okay, to access in either of regions, okay, if you just click on this, you need to have a special permission for that to access and to create, because preview, it's under preview state, so you need to have preview credentials. So this is what it needs to. And once you just raise a request for with Amazon, they probably take around a weekday's time to get you that preview sign up. Then once you get that preview sign up, you will be able to go practice or have the access of elastic file system. But it's really beautiful that once you have this access, you can just create an EBS volume, and that one volume can be attached to multiple instances. Why do we have to connect one volume to the multiple instances? Because sometimes when we face a space crunch, okay, when we face a space crunch, we go extend the volumes, isn't it? But here in this elastic file system, we are trying to understand, okay, creating an elastic file system and attaching to multiple instances at a time. So understand, okay, understand, it is not only attached to multiple instances but also can have unlimited storage. So one file system with unlimited storage will be certainly used by multiple instances, so that you can just, okay, use the space without wasting it. And one more best thing about this elastic file system is, when you need to have some volume, you first initially have to mention what size of volume you wanted to create, either 8 GB or 10 GB or 100 gigabytes, whatever it is, you first have to mention, and then the volume gets created that you attach. But sometimes you may need such a total amount of volume, or that volume which we have created may not be sufficient, isn't it? So every time when it is not sufficient, we have to go extend, and thinking that it may be, it may not be enough in the future. If we initially take the huge volume and not utilized the entire storage, it's waste with that we have not utilized. And the other thing is, though we do not utilize, we are paying for that since we initially have taken dedicatedly for us. But that is not, that headache is not needed here in this elastic file system. That's why it is mentioned elastic. Why? Because this elastic file system once created will automatically expand by itself. And when you don't wanted any data, that data is deleted, it will automatically get shrinked by the size of data you have stored in that elastic file system. With respect to that, you can save your budget as well, that you don't need to mention what capacity of elastic file system you wanted to create. You don't need to mention. Petabytes of storage you can expect in this. It can scale up to petabytes and can support thousands of concurrent NFS connections, network file system connections. Then data which is stored can also be stored in multiple availability zones in a region. So if one data center is not working, availability zone is not working, but still you will be able to access your data from the other availability zone, because the other availability zone instance is connected with this file system, so you can access from there. That is another best possibility. Then it is always read after write consistency. First, read after write. Once it is written, once your writing is done, then it will start reading. You will be able to read that. And the other challenge is, okay, fine, you create instances and attach to this elastic file system, but all those file systems, all those instances whichever are using this one elastic file system should be under one security group. Okay, they are not supposed to be under multiple security groups. Okay, so that is a challenge, but it's really a great concept that Amazon has come up with. Okay with that? Yes? Okay, that's fantastic. Now, one more question I would like to ask. It's very simple. 1 or 2 points I'm going to discuss about that service, because it's not part of our admins, it's part of developers. So now, imagine you are a developer and have assigned with a task. The task is completed, but you wanted to test that whether it is functioning properly or not. Since you are a developer, that may be a code which you wanted to execute or an application which you wanted to test. When you are a developer, do you need to have an idea of creating servers, creating storage and all that stuff? Do you? You will be developing the application, or you will be creating servers and deleting and all everything you yourself do. Then what is the role of admins in the IT field? Isn't it? So a developer need not to know. When a developer doesn't know how to create a server, and when it is needed for him, okay, a developer needs to help. But you see, an admin guy needs to help. But for that developer, when a server is needed, the server is also needed by installing all the applications which are supportive to his code to be executed. Then only the server is useful for him. If not, it's waste creating a server for him. So why till then, till the server based on his requirement gets ready or created by an admin guy, he needs to wait for that and then waste time, isn't it? Because an admin guy go to EC2 create server, storage is needed, so go to S3 create storage. So for all this, that he needs to go to all those things and then set up the environment, and then that environment is provided. So what if we have some functionality or some service wherein you are directly provided with the environment needed to a developer and he execute his code, then pay only for the amount of time the code has executed. Okay, the moment it is started executing and then it is terminated once its execution is finished. Only for that amount of time he pay that charges. Okay, so that's possible by this service Lambda. Okay, run code in response to events. So here we create events and provide to that developer, then the developer will have a ready-made infrastructure for his testing or for his code execution, and he'll pay only for the amount of time he used that entire environment. But if you individually wanted to go create the environment, the charges will be individually applicable for all the services you are utilizing here in this. So that's what I wanted to talk about Lambda. Lambda is the service. So far we have discussed about execution of code and all. Hope that makes sense for you guys. We spoke very little, but an idea, just to have an idea, I've just discussed, that's all. You clear? Yes. Fine, I'll just delete this instance and then go to storage. I have to do terminate. Okay, so you see, clean up associated resources. Associated resources may incur cost after these instances are terminated. So what do? The moment you finish terminating this, you better go to Elastic IP. That is what the associated thing. Then first you cannot, deleting the Elastic IP is possible by releasing it, but you cannot directly release. You must have to disassociate it prior to that, or the instance should be properly terminated. Okay, it's disassociated, then go release it. Once you release, it will be removed from your account. That's all. You are safe now. Let's go to the dashboard and check if we have anything. Fantastic. There's nothing. It's very clean. Now let's go to S3. So hope you are clear with EC2 section, guys, everybody. Now S3. So with respect to that EC2 section, remember 40% of our course is done. Once S3 is finished, then almost 60% of the course is done. So these are the two major topics which we have to understand. Now storage. So this is what S3 when you go in. Okay. So what's S3? Let me just go back and then make you understand. So S3 is what? Scalable storage in the cloud. You wanted unlimited storage, you can just avail. But what is the difference between our EBS and S3? EBS is also storage only, elastic block storage. So what is the difference? First let's try to understand the differences between EBS and S3 storage. As we know, EBS storage is in terms of volumes created, and those volumes are nothing but it's like external hard disk or pen drive, which must require, the first point, which must require a server to access the data stored in it. So that is the basic thing about EBS. And the EBS storage is block level storage. You create blocks and files and keep your files or folders into that. And the other thing is, it's not only that, but you can also store configurational stuff into that. Any configurational stuff you wanted to store into that, you can still store. It's because one volume a normal volume can also be considered as a root volume. So once you consider a normal volume as a root volume, then all the softwares will be installed by defaultly into that root volume. So you can just install OS, you can create a database you wanted, you can install any other third-party application you wanted onto an ABS volume. But that's not possible on S3 storage. So let's understand what S3 storage is. First of all, S3 storage is not like your external hard disk or pen drive, but what it is like? It is like your Google Drive, okay? Your Google Drive or Dropbox or something like that. Instagram, you upload something into that and access from any corner of the world, but for that you require a proper internet connection and a web browser. That's all. If you have those two things, then you can do anything you wanted. Clear? Yes? So that is the first point, and the second point is, okay, EBS is block level storage, but S3 is object based storage. Objects, we upload the objects, okay? So that is why we say it is object based storage. And the third point, when I wanted to compare, on an EBS volume you can just install your OS, create databases and all whatever I have listed. So but here on S3 you cannot do that. It's because it is not considered, your S3 storage cannot be considered as a root of your instance. Since that you cannot install applications onto your S3 storage. So these are the few differences or comparisons between elastic block storage EBS and S3, a scalable storage in the cloud. But why is it named as S3? Okay, did we discuss what is EC2 stands for? Anybody?
Elastic Compute Cloud.
Yes, exactly. Elastic Compute Cloud. So ECC. Since there are two C's, we say EC2. Similarly, S3, nothing but three S together. So what those three S stands for? Simple Storage Service. So S3 stands for Simple Storage Service, and that's scalable in the cloud. Okay, as we discussed, it's an object-based storage and cannot install OS or database onto it. Files, okay, remember, understand these points. Files you store, each file you store onto, okay, an S3 bucket. What do you mean by bucket? Bucket is a container wherein you can store or upload files or folders onto that. And each file which you store can be of 1 byte to, okay, it can be of the size from 1 byte to 5 terabytes. 5 terabytes, the maximum limit of a single file capacity can be in between 1 byte to 5 terabytes. Such a huge files can also be stored into your S3 bucket. Imagine if one file can be of 5 terabytes, what is the capacity of that bucket? So remember, your bucket storage has no limitation. It is unlimited. You can just have unlimited storage in one bucket. When one bucket has unlimited storage, okay, why do we need so many buckets? Alright, why do we need so many buckets? In an organization, you may need different locations or different buckets for different storages. It's nothing but different types of data or different for different projects. if you create one particular bucket and then upload all the project's data into that, you may not be able to, differentiate these different projects data, or you may have to, search for that when it is needed. So in order to not to get confused, we go create multiple buckets based on our requirement or our need. Okay, and files are stored in the bucket. The names, that's what we have seen while creating auto scaling. We have created an S3 bucket. So we have seen that the names must be unique. Whichever the bucket you create, the bucket created will have a unique name, should have a unique name, because the data uploaded into a bucket is accessed by n number of people over internet. That is the reason why, okay, that is the reason why the bucket names must be unique. And how many buckets we can create? Okay, we can have 100 buckets per account by default. Imagine one bucket is having unlimited space. When one bucket itself has such a huge space, unlimited, how much data you can upload into 100 buckets? So that is what a massive storage capacity is S3. Such a huge thing it is. And even this also, read after write consistency for puts of a new objects. Put is nothing but uploading. Get is nothing but downloading. Again, in the future we will see these two words, so that I'm saying what they are. Okay, clear with? Now let's go see some creating a bucket. You already know. But we still see. And yeah, one more thing I wanted to talk to you guys. All these days I'm in night shift actually, so that soon after I'm done with my shift, I'm continuing this class. So that we are meeting at 7:30 a.m. IST. But from coming Monday, I'm in UK shift, afternoon shifts. So in India, my shift starts at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and ends at 10 o'clock in the evening. So is it possible for you guys to meet up little early in the morning? Because all the night I'll be sleeping, so I can get up little early, maybe by 6:30 in the morning IST. Yeah, it's okay, fine. So that you will not be in a hurry to go rush to your offices if you have any work or any schedules. Fine, we will see. And moreover, there may be a disturbance on Monday that we may not meet, because I think I'm not going to be in the station, and I don't have any facility of internet connection. So that Monday it may be a problem. Any doubt, I'll just let you know. I mean, like, if there is any change, that I'll confirm tomorrow. In tomorrow's class, I'll confirm you guys. We'll meet up tomorrow because we missed a class the day before yesterday, and Mondays is also a doubt, so we'll meet tomorrow. Now, okay, let's go create a bucket. So what's a bucket? Yes, what is a bucket?
It's a container where we can store our files and all.
Exactly. And how many buckets we can create, or the limit we have in an account?
We can create
Hundreds of
hundreds of
buckets.
buckets.
100 buckets. Yes, 100, not hundreds, 100, only 100. So that is what. Let's go create bucket. And you see here, a bucket is a container for objects stored in Amazon S3. When creating a bucket, you can choose a region to optimize. You see, when we were dealing with EC2, there was what is this? Okay, one moment, I'll cancel and then again come back. You see, now when you are into your management console, the region is specifically mentioned Sydney. Even if you go into EC2 region, EC2 section, it will still be Sydney only, and even when whichever the service you go in, it will be the same Sydney region only, except for two things. What are those two things? One is S3, because you see here it is mentioned global, and the other one IAM. IAM is also global. IAM is purely global, that once you create a user, based on the permissions set to him, he can just do anything in any region, which means again it's up to the permissions provided by the policy. But he can do that in all the 10 regions available. So that's the reason why IAM is global, and the users, whatever we create in that way, is global. And here, though the buckets are not global, you see here it is mentioned, you can read, write and delete objects ranging in size from 1 byte to 5 terabytes each. The number of objects you can store is unlimited. Each object is stored in a bucket with a unique key that you assign. So that is what the information, you just go through all that, and if you wanted even more information, then you can see, you can just go to the documentation. So you'll find things more than what you wanted. And where we are, okay, so here it is mentioned global, but it will ask us to choose the region here. Why is it asking us to choose the region here and mentioned global here? Because all the buckets created needs to have a unique name, because the data uploaded into it is accessed by people out and from all the corners of the world based on the permissions set by you. Since that all the buckets created in your account will be listed all in one location. Since all the regions buckets listed in one particular location, okay, it is mentioned global here. But I'll show you how do you understand which bucket is created in which region. That I'll just make you understand. Let's first create one thing, one bucket first, and then understand. So I'll just try to give this way. My, okay, first bucket. Let's create this way, or at the rate 1 2 3 something like that. I'm just giving. See, it will warn me. Let's go check. What is it saying? The bucket in Sydney region must contain only lowercase letters. So remember, the bucket name should be unique, and not only that, the bucket name should always be all in lowercase alphabets and numbers. That's all. You can either have special characters. Let's see that. So I'm going to change this M from capital to small and then say create. It will still say that Sydney region cannot contain the character hash here. The special characters should not be. So now it will check for whether this name is available for us or somebody else have created a bucket with this name. So let's see whether this name is available. Looks like it is available. Oh no. The requested bucket name is not valid. The bucket namespace is shared by all user of the system. Please select a different name and try again. So what I will do is, I will just change these numbers from 1 to 3 to a random number like 169. Okay. Let's see whether this is available. Yes, this is available. So that we could create a bucket. A first bucket is created by us. Of course, we have already created a bucket yesterday, but when we are trying to understand S3 topic, this is our first bucket, so fine, we are done. Okay, so that's all. I mean, that's a little information about bucket, S3 bucket. And now what we have to do is we need to understand about all these tabs one after the other. Okay, so this is what we need to understand. Let's understand one by one individually. Okay, there is so much stuff we need to understand in this. But you see, once a bucket is created, okay, you can find it here. I said right, where do you understand, how do you understand which region this bucket is created? It is possible for us to understand that by going into the properties of that bucket. So you go bucket name, the region in which it is created, the date when it is created, and the owner. Owner is what? The root account will be the owner always. Root account is nothing but the mail ID by which what? By which mail ID you just log into your AWS account management console. That will be the owner, root account person. Then understand, okay, S3 objects. We need to understand these things. S3 objects contain a key, that is name of the object, okay, that's generally known as key. A value, that's nothing but data with sequence of bytes. Then version ID, when versioning is enabled, we will understand what's versioning in depth. So when versioning is enabled, version ID will be created. Then not only that, S3 objects will also have metadata. It's nothing but the data about the data stored. Then ACLs, access control list, if you have anything created. So these are the S3 object characteristics. Then okay, what else? Let's understand these tabs. Permissions. So by default, okay, permission is nothing but who can access this bucket. Okay, who else can access this bucket? So by default, whenever you create a bucket, it is accessed by only the root account holder or any IAM user who create it. Usually it will possible for only a root account user, that's all. But how do you change the permissions? How do you give the access to this bucket to somebody specifically or make it public so that it is accessed by everybody out there? So that is possible by this tab, add more permissions. So you click on add more permissions, then select whom do you wanted to give the access to this bucket. So when you just click on the drop down, it says everyone, any authenticated AWS user, log delivery. Log delivery is nothing but what you wanted to have logs. That's nothing but who's accessing your bucket, who's uploading files into that, who's downloading, who's who's accessing our website, our data is stored into this bucket. So for all those things, if you wanted to create a log, okay, you need to go with this log delivery. So that log delivery should have an access. Log delivery is nothing but what? It again captures some space. So where does that stored? That will be automatically stored in Amazon's S3 storage. So you don't need to worry anything about that. But for that, log delivery, which nothing but log delivery should also have permission to access or create logs to this particular bucket. So that's possible here by log delivery. But now what I'll do, I'll just go with everyone. So I just wanted to make it public. It's not done once you select everyone, so it is made public. But not only that, you also have to select these things. List. Okay, so everybody can list what's in there and how many files are there. Everything can be listed. And you can also select this because on behalf of you, if somebody else wanted to upload or download, delete the files from bucket, so you can also provide that permission by just clicking on this box. And the other two I'm just leaving as it is, because edit permissions, I'll only edit permissions when I want it. So I'm not going to give this option to some user, and I'm also not going to give permissions to check to the other person. So only these two things. I'm making this bucket public by selecting everyone. So what everyone can do, everyone can list and upload or delete files from that bucket. So once that is done, you can save, or you can add multiple permissions here, not an issue. So I'm saving it. Okay, so it's saved. The permissions tab is finished. Okay, so now what next? We need to understand about all these things. But guys, is it fine if I stop our class for today? We'll continue tomorrow. Yeah, fine then. I'm stopping. I'm leaving you a little early today because I've got some other work. But catch you tomorrow early in the morning. Yeah, tomorrow, guys, we'll meet at 6:30 IIM. Sorry, IST. I'm sorry. Is that fine? Yeah. So make a note. Tomorrow our class is scheduled at 6:30 IAM IST. 6:30 AM IST. Fine. See you guys then. Catch you tomorrow. So I'm not deleting this bucket because I've not saved anything into it. It's empty. Let it be like this only. I'll discuss things based on this tomorrow. So today what we have seen, how to create a bucket, what is S3, what is S3 bucket is. Then we have seen its concepts, its parameters, started looking into its parameters. So these and all we have to understand. So initially we have just seen with one single parameter, that is permissions. So it's nothing but by default whenever any bucket is created, it is by default private, only accessed by the root account holder, but not everybody. So how to give access to the people, that is what is mentioned, seen here in permissions tab. So we'll understand rest of the parameters one after the other tomorrow. Fine guys, then I'll stop. Is there anything? Yeah, is there anything you wanted to confirm? Okay. Sai, what about you? You said you have some something to be discussed after the class. Yes. Okay, then Sai will stay back. Rest can leave. Or if you wanted to just check what we are going to discuss, you can just stay. It's up to you. Okay, bye to the people whoever are leaving.